Hey everyone, Chris Lopez here, and welcome to our fourth house hacking mastermind. So I've got my regular co-host here, Ben Einspar. Ben, what's new, man?
Oh, not too much. Just looking forward to this fourth recording of the house hack masterminds and what it turns out to be.
Me too.
Looking forward to it.
And of course, I got Jeff White. Jeff, how are you, man?
Doing well. Just went on a hot air balloon ride.
No, really?
Was that for like scanning out tiger?
No tigers
Caves
were
or
on this
something?
one. It was just a late birthday gift from my lady, and wonderful experience. If you guys have never done it, it's awesome.
Dude, so I did that once like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I loved it, but scared the
Yeah,
crap out of me. Like I'm like just being floating up there, dude, it's eerie.
Yeah, because you go like slow, and it's not like a big jump like an airplane. It just
And you have
goes
zero
Oh
control.
man.
Yeah, it's just the wind. You don't know where you're going, and then I don't know where you're going to land. That was kind of crazy too. Like we almost hit a bunch of trees. It was fun.
You went to professional, right?
Yeah, I didn't do it now. They let me push the little blowtorch
Yeah.
thing on the top. So
There's no turning back. Once you start going up, there's absolutely no turning back. You're like, oh, let's go back down. Kind of like skydiving. Yeah.
All right. So we've got two guests on here who are both very new first-time house hackers. So just going in alphabetical order. The first one is Justin Bourne. Justin is 28 years old. He's been looking into real estate investing since college, and he finally put those dreams in action in 2019 by budgeting, paying off some debt, and beginning to save for the first house purchase. Nothing exciting, but all the right stuff. And he learned about house hacking in late 2019, and he pulled the trigger on his first house hack here in October. So about, I think he closed like, what, 5 weeks ago, Justin, right?
Yeah. I think October 19th was closing date.
Yeah, so man, glad to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty great. I'm actually not at my house right now because I'm getting a new roof.
All right, so that's a good excuse. Was this, and I know the story of it, but this is all, tell us about your house hack real quickly. So that way you
absolutely.
can tell us about what you got and the situation that you're on.
Yeah. Should I just start with like the actual house, or should I do the whole journey?
No, just give us a quick house overview right now, and then we'll get into that in a couple minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a 2,400 square foot, 4-bed, 3-bath house. I think we found it on Monday or Tuesday. And, I looked at it once, looked at it again. And then after the second time looking at it, I was like, okay, I think I want to buy it, saw value in it. I felt like it was undervalued and, compared to the comps in the area. And we structured the deal so that way they would have to confirm or deny whether they were going to accept it before it went through the weekend, because you send things through the weekend in Denver and it just goes through the roof. And yeah, they took it. So then we had to jump through quite a bit of hoops, during closing.
Yeah, you had some inspection items to negotiate there.
Yeah, we did. So the roof was unrepairable. It needed to be replaced, and then some electrical stuff that was kind of minor. And we ended up foregoing the electrical. And the seller's agent actually tried to really play hardball with us on the roof, but eventually we got what we wanted.
Yeah, you had a tough listing agent on their side who was
Yeah, that's all right.
But
he played hardball with the wrong guy.
Work.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so our second guest is Patrick Dowdy. Patrick is a project manager in the commercial construction industry and officially closed on his first house hack November 6th. Has a post-occupancy agreement until the 18th. So that is as of yesterday. And we're recording this. So it's a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in Arvada, and he's in the process of finding 3 tenants with the goal of getting it filled by December 1st. So Patrick, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So kind of give us the quick rundown, because you officially took possession yesterday. It's where you could move in, right?
Yeah. So right now I'm still in my apartment. I have my apartment lease until January 1st. And yeah, that's kind of how all the looking for housing came to fruition for me. Was I'm 29, going to be 30 in March, just kind of tired of paying somebody else $1,700 a month. And so I started looking, and I think it was like 52 days after I went on the house hacking / real estate investment knowledge binge that I ended up closing on a property. So the circumstances were a bit unique with it. they were looking for a fast closing, but the current tenant or current seller at the time, they weren't unable to move into their property until the 16th of November. So we got it closed quick. Castle and Cook Mortgage moves fast. The team, all players moved really quick and efficiently. And then, I had to sit on my hands for about 12 days and got rid of the, house hunting anxiety. But then it became, when can I get into this place? So
I think we all know about the house hunting anxiety. And yeah, Castle and Cook, they definitely have their ducks in a row for you to move quick on your close and set yourself above other people interested in the property, because I'm sure that seller's really wanting to get it, and if you present to them that you're going to have a quick close, whether it's 10 or 20 days, it's really appealing to them. I think that's what helped us on ours, at least.
Yeah, I mean, speed definitely helps out sometimes. Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
All right, well, guys, glad to have on the show. Ben, I am looking at you now because
All right.
you have the agenda, and I get to introduce people and have some fun. So tell us what we're doing.
Perfect. So first, what I like to dive into first, just briefly and informally, is we all have a reason for house hacking, and we all looked back and thought about what's our why for house hacking. What's our short-term goal? What do we want to do in 6 months to 1 year, and what do we want in the 3 to 5 years? And that's why I kind of wanted to just quickly dive in, let the listeners know what your actual goal with house hacking is. Justin, start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I guess my short-term goals would be to get my house filled. I actually have 2 of the 3 rooms filled at this point, waiting on the 3rd. And then add value to my property. So one thing that I saw in buying that house was that there's a lot of square footage and it's not being utilized for bedrooms. Specifically, the laundry room is huge. I mean, I think it's like 13 by 14 feet. I mean, and you don't need that much room for a laundry room. So I'm planning on busting out a couple walls, adding a bedroom, potentially adding a bathroom before I move out and do my next house hack. Just because, it seems to me that 5 bedrooms really bring in that cash flow. So that's the short-term goal. Long-term goals, in terms of like monthly cash flow, Chris actually had me do this exercise. I decided that $32,000 a month is kind of my very long-term goal in, rental or income from real estate. I'd like to own a multifamily, and I would also like to try my hand at doing a burr and a flip. I don't really want to be like a one-trick pony in real estate.
Yes. So you said you have 2 of the 3 rooms. So I'm guessing it sounds like you're doing the rent by the room strategy.
Yep.
How's that going?
So it's going great, honestly. One of the guys, I actually know him, so that went really smoothly. And I just posted on, there's a few like Denver roommates Facebook pages that I posted on. And I was actually like wanted to wait until I got done, like getting everything like set up in the house. And I was like, you know what, people aren't going to care. I think I just need to get it up and get people in there. And I got a lot of traffic. I had some pretty interesting people call me about the room. I had one guy who asked me if him and one other guy, the other guy was an ex-CIA agent, and he wanted to grow marijuana in the backyard. And I was like, yeah, no thanks.
Wait.
Well, come on.
You turned that down?
Do what?
Turned that one down?
Well, I just thought it was a weird.
That's a slam dunk.
I thought it was a weird deal, man. Like he was giving me weird vibes.
I'm an ex-CIA guy that wants to grow a pot.
If it was $32,000 a month, I think you would say yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. If they wanted to give me extra money, I would have done it. But he was like, yeah, I'll build a shed in the backyard and he can smoke back there. And I'm like, this is like
additional rent.
It's like drama to me.
Other streams of rental income for you. Backyard.
yeah, exactly. Cultivating the backyard. So I ran into a couple interesting people with that. And, but yeah, no, so I'm just waiting on that 3rd room. I actually was thinking today, if the 2 people who are moving in are okay with it, I might do Airbnb for the 3rd room and see how it goes.
That's good. One thing you brought up that's interesting is, do you have any concerns renting to someone that you know, if regarding payment, or if something goes wrong, is that a concern to you?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm doing lease contracts with everybody. I mean, you got to keep everything at arm's length, right? Like, cause it's a business, and like, you can have friends move in, but you always have to like draw the line in the sand and be like, hey, like, this is just because you're my friend doesn't mean I'm going to be okay with you paying me rent 2 weeks late, or okay with like cutting you a huge deal and or whatever. Right. So I don't know. I'm okay with having people in there that I know, and I almost prefer it because I'm living there. After I move out, I mean, like, I don't really care if I know them or not. Right. But having someone that I know doing a house hack, being that I live there, it's nice just because I kind of know what I'm getting. But I mean, I don't want to, it's the devil, right? I mean, you're getting the negatives and positives that as opposed to some person that you have never met before.
Absolutely. Well
And
said.
can I go and jump in here? And because he was just talking about when to start renting out rooms. And Jeff, you've done this a handful of times.
Yes.
I mean, when is the there's hey, everything's ready to go, and then there's the hey, we're good enough, we can start doing it. There's hey, there's a wait for you. So where's kind of the sweet spot in that continuum of hey, you're getting a house hack when you start looking for roommates?
Yeah, I mean, I would perfect world, you would start a couple weeks before you close, assuming the place already is looks good in pictures, and people, like, you probably noticed, Justin, that the people that you rented to, not your friend but like the other person, I don't know if you furnished it or not, but sometimes people don't care if it's furnished. They just want a room to rent. They just want to move from wherever they're living, or if they're from out of state, or if they're living at a place they don't like the other roommates. They're just very transitory people. But yeah, to answer your question, Chris, you could really, the place doesn't have to be all like repainted and have beautiful appliances and furniture and looking immaculate. You could find renters. You could rent by room even in the crappiest, dungiest basement room. You're probably not gonna get $700 a month for it, but you'll probably get like $500 a month for that room. There is renters in every spectrum of price range and quality. Like,
can I throw in another layer on here? I mean, we are recording this. We're 1 week before Thanksgiving here in November. So after Labor Day, everything kind of slows down a little bit due to seasonality, and then come holidays, things slow down the most in Denver market. So room by room stuff with, hey, we got the holidays coming up here, and in November to New Year's Eve is not the ideal time to go out there and rent places. Yeah. How much quicker is, hey, does speed matter to get someone in there versus waiting even a week or two? Like, can you kind of quantify how much more important speed is around the holidays?
Yeah, I mean, like, to fill it sooner.
To fill it and hopefully fill it quicker and maybe get a couple more dollars and we're having to drop it, $25 or $50. Not a whole lot, but ideal. Hey, the sooner it's filled, the higher the rent.
Yeah,
we're happier.
I mean, right now is probably the toughest time to rent because you have people going home for Thanksgiving or taking that time off for Christmas and Hanukkah, whatever holidays they celebrate. A lot of people just don't move as much, just like normal tenants, but to get some, but there's, I would say, more people at rent by room that, like, they're more transitory. So you'll have more people interested in renting a $700 room. So it's not complete, as long as you're not overpriced, you're going for like $1,000 for, just completely out of the ballpark. You can still find people even in the middle of, as long as it's good pictures, short description, and you listed a bunch of places, you'll find people no matter if it's a week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah, you could find, like, even right now, if you listed today and next week's Thanksgiving, I bet if you priced it right, you could find someone by December 1st. If you post enough places, it's definitely possible. I've done it before, so it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And you're nodding your head there, Ben?
I'm going on the other side. I think it's the other way around because all in all, it's a business. I look at it as a business. So you want to, I think your property more say doesn't make your money, your tenants make your money. So it's all about doing your work and doing the upfront work and screening tenants to make sure you find a quality tenant. Because I think when I jumped on the phone with Patrick, I think he said at one point you lived in a place and you talked to where it was rent by the room. I think it was out of the States, but it was out rent by the room, and the landlord said, "Man, give it 3 to 4 months and the true colors show." Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was. I was living in New Zealand, and it wasn't the owner of the property, but it was a guy who had lived there for 8 years. And we were talking about, some of the new roommates that had moved in. I had been there for 3 or 4 months at that point. So maybe he was making a cheeky stab at me, but I don't think so. But basically he said, they're cleaning their dishes now. They're acting all nice, but that wears off in 3 months. He said, I've been doing this for too long. Where they live is Queenstown, New Zealand. So it's very transient. Lots of people come and go. So they're kind of always posting rooms for rent out of their place. And it's an amazing spot to be. So they get kind of picky, and I got lucky to have like a personal connection to get to them. But yeah, I mean, it was true. Some people are who they say they were. Some of those flatmates were good as gold, and the other ones started shaking out about 3 to 4 months. And then, that's when I started reevaluating my tenancy in that house. It's like, well, I didn't come here to get stressed out about who I'm living with. So yeah.
And I talked about this before too,
Yeah,
because of that reason. 6-month leases are your best friend when it comes to rent by the room.
Yes.
Even if you're renting in April, I still suggest a 6-month lease, just because of that whole issue right there. Fit is probably, you can't screen. You could do whatever you can't really discriminate for fit. You have to screen on your qualifications and application standards of income, employment, and background check. But fit is, you just don't know how people are going to mesh. Even if you think, oh yeah, they both seem kind of chill and quiet, that does not matter at all, because like Patrick's aware, after a few months, people, just like anything, they'll go back to their old habits. They won't try to be nice to each other anymore, and the true colors will come out. So the shorter leases, and then if it is a good fit, then go long term to the 1 year. 18 months would depend on the timing of the lease and what they want, is the most optimal in my opinion. But yeah, it's even actually more so right now, to fill a vacancy. Like I said, if you price it right in the middle for, Thanksgiving, Christmas is really a difficult time to rent. But if you go like $50 lower than what you can get in, let's say, May, that's totally fine. Just do a 6-month lease. And then when it comes up May 1st, then bump it up to market. Or if, to me, having a good tenant is better, even at $50 less per month, than a crappy one I'm always replacing and trying to get the maximum rent.
Yeah, that's what I was getting
Bingo.
at, is do your due diligence up front. Take your time. Even if you're losing $50 a month, then you're worried about the holiday coming up. Let me get someone in. Oh, well, it's $850 now, but now you have a headache, and I can't put a quantity to that, but I know that's the last thing you want to deal with this personal
Perfect
problems.
example I got in my last place. I re-rented a couple of the rooms. Maybe I underpriced a couple of them. I did $675, and I said, I'll try $750.
Was this number 3?
Yeah, number 3.
Okay.
And no problem. For the room is exactly the same. I didn't do it.
What was your rents there?
$675 for the small rooms that are like 10
Upstairs?
by 10 by 11, and maybe I underpriced those, but then because it shows really well pictures, and I said, oh, let's try $750, and then I filled those 2 rooms to $750, no problem, just because I rented them out during the spring and summer versus when I originally rented it was October, which is
But in
tougher.
the grand scheme of things, $75 is not a big deal, and it shouldn't be a big deal
Right.
with anyone's budget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always nice to maximize it, but in the grand scheme, it's like, whatever. Like, that's
Yeah.
not going to affect your retirement, in
No.
12 years or something.
It's just maximizing the cash flow,
Yeah.
but it's to me, having a better tenant at a lower rent is better than trying to always aim for maximization and having more vacancies and time where they're empty, and trying to be optimal, because you can still achieve optimal portfolio without always pushing the limits. And peace of mind, I think, is, especially when you rent by the room, just like Airbnb, you want a peace of mind that your investment is safe and you're not have to always get 1,000 calls or worry about it all the time. If you have good tenants that, pick up after themselves, know the house rules, and the only complaints you'll get are when like things break, and that's how it should be.
Well said. All right, Patrick. Goals. What's your purpose of house hacking?
So I'll be honest, after I got under contract with this house, I got off the forum. I didn't remove myself from the forums, but I just went on a total decrease of fire hydrant of knowledge that I was taking into my brain, because like I said, it was kind of like a fast-paced decision for me. Very logical person. I make logical decisions. So I knew that I could do it. But in the last 2 months, it was, I read both of Chris's books. I was on Bigger Pockets all the time, doing webinars, following these podcasts, just trying to get as much information as I could. I got a couple friends, one in Philly doing a house hack, purchased about 2 months before me, a friend in San Antonio that's doing flips. He's kind of the one that was the genesis to me even thinking about being able to be in real estate investment. Because he used to be a ski bum in Vail, which is how I met him. And I thought, man, how do you afford to do this? And he kind of opened my eyes to the availability of money that's actually out in the market for you to access to do these sorts of things, which is what started the ball rolling. So, short-term goals, find good tenants. I mean, that's really it for me. I structured our close date, or I requested our close date be structured so that my first mortgage payment isn't due until January 1st. That being because I'm currently in an apartment that lease ends January 1st. I didn't want to double up on, mortgage payment and a rent payment. But at the same time, that buys me some time to find, tenants. Right now, I've got one tenant lease signed. I've got a security deposit in pocket. Another one is going to be moving from Tennessee. I'm just waiting on some verification from his work transfer to come through, and I'll have him signed on. And he's starting January 1st. The other guy's December 1st. But I've got that month of December as a flux. I don't really need people in there in the month of December. It's just extra cash in my pocket at that point, which is always good for cash flow. The way I've structured my potential, plans always change, but the way I've structured my potential portfolio acquisition is probably a year and a half from now, be looking to purchase another property, just because I think I slid in under the door in the nick of time before the market really just kind of fell off in terms of listings. The presidential election was occurring. I really didn't want to linger too far into November when looking for a house hack property. So I was able to get that under contract, and now I'm kind of looking ahead, and I think, okay, a month in December, I don't really need to fill it very quickly. And if I plan to hold this house hack for a year and a half, that's giving me an extra 6 months over the, kind of typical 1 year turnover for buying the next one. It gives me another 6 months of saving. So, I'm not really hurting to get another person, but just want to make sure the fit's right, and that, Justin kind of alluded to it earlier. There are a lot of interesting people out there trying to take advantage of your situation somehow. It doesn't really make sense, but yeah, you get some interesting folks that reach out. It's been talked about before. They don't read the posting. They ask questions that are clearly identified in the second sentence of the post. I found a very quick way to kind of filter people out. I've got a copy and pasted response that basically just, as soon as they initiate the conversation, I just copy and paste a response that says, if you're interested in a room, send me your email. I'll send you a link to the background credit check and application. It costs $29 through Zillow. That money never touches my pocket, but I just want you to know that that's the next step in this process. 80% of people stop right there. They don't reply. They just, they're trying to get feelers, or they think that they're going to get a whole 5-bed, 2-bath house for $750 a month. It's very apparent when you start seeing these messages come in and you're kind of checking on profiles and stuff like that. But I'll be honest, my short-term, probably most immediate short-term goal is to get back off of Facebook. I was off of Facebook. I got back on just for this. And, I'll be relieved to have a couple tenants in where I can just delete Facebook again and not have to worry about, the listings and stuff. It's part of the game. I get that. But, yeah, so that's kind of short term, not as specific there as like Justin's got, but my long term, again, kind of, down the line is just acquisition of 4 or 5 properties in the Denver area would be nice. I'm open to different types, multifamily or multi-unit buildings. Again, I would like to be in the BRRRR flip situation, but that was kind of how I got into the house hacking real estate conversation, was looking at BRRRRs, looking at flips, and then kind of just really understood what I was going to be capable of financially. And those weren't in my wheelhouse at the moment. So
and
those obviously are
current market conditions as well. Like, I mean, it's great.
Exactly.
But it's tough to do as a person, and it's really swimming upstream in the Denver market. And when you're swimming upstream, that's harder. My philosophy is like, go downstream, go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, Patrick, I wrote here as you're talking about the people who don't read all the Facebook you're posting there. So here's a problem, man. You're very logical. A lot of people are not logical, more detail oriented.
Oh, yeah.
I got no good news for you there, other than we complain about it all the time ourselves. We're like, okay, that thing you're asking, we've said that 3 times here. Like, please read it.
Yeah, I don't even entertain. I try to put out vibes into the world that I want to receive back. So I try not to get snappy like I maybe used to in my younger age, and kind of call them out for, being, I don't know, illiterate or dumb or whatever, or just, totally on the hunt too much, And I actually had one individual, he did send me his email. I sent him the application process, and then a couple days later, he followed up and said, hey, can you send that link? I took a screenshot that showed, I said, hey, is this your information? He said, yeah, that's my information. I said, I sent it the other day. You can see the timestamp on it. And he's like, oh, well, can you send it again? I've got 40 applications to go through. And I said, hey, man, I'm not going to hold your hand through this process. If you can't sort through your emails, I don't think that I'm really interested in you living in my house. And that was about as chippy as I've gotten. And he was none too kind after that. I had to block him. There was, F you, F this, I hope this fails for you, and you don't find tenants. And it was just like, come on, bro. And then it went from 40 applicants to, man, I got 200 applications I have to go through in my emaal, and you can't just send it again. I said, done, bro. I said, block. But yeah, it's a means to an end, and I'm finding that Facebook obviously is the place to be. Apartments.com doesn't allow you to rent, post listings by the room. Zillow doesn't let you post listings by the room. Personally, I don't care for Roomster. I feel like it's some sort of there's some sort of scam going on there where they send you because the way Roomster works, you sign up, but you can't have access to messages that get sent to you unless you pay for a subscription. So, I posted my listing, and then I got a message, and it was like a very vague, you can't even like really review their profile. And I initially thought, I wonder if this is Roomster just like sending out a spam message to get me to pay for the subscription. And I paid for the subscription. Of course, I replied to the person who initially reached out. They never replied back. So, what I'm finding is Facebook's really the one-trick pony for posting by the room, and you just got to kind of take what you get when it comes with the territory of dealing in the Facebook realm, which is sliding into the Craigslist realm a little bit.
I also use Turbo Tenant, which you can post room by room.
Okay.
And that's also the interface I'm using for like screening tenants, getting set up with leases and all that. It's pretty user friendly, and it's free. And you can do room by room. I mean, I got, I guess, both of my tenants from Facebook Marketplace, but the CIA weed guy did contact me through Turbo Tenant. So
good to know.
Yeah.
I'll download Turbo Tenant then.
That Roomster is a mixed bag. They do that weird game, or it's like you get like a message. I know exactly what you're talking about. They send you a message from a person, but it appears it's not directed toward, it seems like it's a message to you, but it's really towards anyone that has a room in that area. So you try to reply back, and that person only sends it to like 10 people. And so some of them are real and some are fake.
Really?
So it's truly a it has people on there, but I would say 80%, 90% of my leads come from Facebook Marketplace.
And it was worth, it's like $8 for a $5 or a 5-day subscription. It was worth it. $8, whatever. You can't buy a 6-pack for that much in Denver anyway. So it's like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. $8. It ran its course for 5 days. I got a few like more realistic profiles reaching out, but no responses. And I just thought, I'm getting far more bites on Facebook that, I even spent money to boost my listing on the marketplace, which actually I got nothing out of the boosting, because when you boost a listing on Facebook Marketplace, it actually gives you insights. So it shows you, this is how many people clicked on your ad. This is how many people actually reached out and messaged you from clicking on the ad, from seeing the ad. And 5-day listing on, I think it was 5-day listing on Facebook, only netted me 1 direct message. So I just opted to not even boost my listings anymore. I'm getting plenty of contacts, whether they're good or not. But yeah.
What I do there is I usually delete my ad, or just do a whole new ad. And then you're like with the algorithm, then you're like back at the top versus trying to boost an old ad. And that's worked for me sometimes when I've had a listing that's gotten after like 3 to 5 days. If it drags out that long, then just look at like, okay, I'll just do the same ad, I'll just repost it again. And that's worked for me a few times, because it's like a new ad versus a boosted old ad.
Even making edits, because I found when I tried to make edits, like, I got 1 room signed and then I went down to 2 rooms. I tried to change it. Well, when you've got it listed in 6 places, 6 different rental seeking groups plus marketplace, I was finding that Facebook wasn't doing a good job of like actually streamlining that process and updating everything properly. Like, so I was seeing like some of my posts were not updated, or the titles were different than the other ones. And so, at a certain point, I just deleted everything, changed it, and then, it puts you right back at the top. It gets that initial like boost of interest again, because people are seeing it. I just wanted to be careful not to get blacklisted by the admin, because, you shouldn't be spamming the page by posting your listing over and over and over again, which sometimes with Facebook, as it lags, I had it accidentally post 2-3 times on one, subletting page. And then I had to be diligent about, I got to make sure I delete these, because I don't want to get banned from this subletting group or rental group, because it looks like I'm spamming the page. Nobody wants that.
All right. So
well said.
Yeah, let's go. I know we got some questions here, Ben.
All right.
That you have so nicely highlighted in our agenda. So
yeah, just try to make it easy on us.
No, I like it, dude.
As a Bailey's kicks in.
Yes, well, that's why you do the prep work.
Yeah, the work up front. So, Justin, when you were talking earlier, we were talking about you're not living at your current house hack because the roof's getting done. And then when we spoke on the phone, we had a brief discussion about negotiating, and can you negotiate in a seller's market?
Yep.
What do you think about that?
Well, I am living in the house. I'm just not there right now because the roof's getting done. Yeah. It's a total construction zone. So I don't know. I personally thought that like there was a lack of negotiating power in a seller's market, because it's inevitably a seller's market, and there's a lot more buyers out there than there are houses, right? But what I realized specifically on my house, so like with the electrical work and the roof, basically we got a bid for the roof, and we went back to the seller's agent with it, and he came back and was like, that's way too high. And so we gave him an extra couple of days, like, go get your own roofer out there and get your own bid. And then he wouldn't do it. And he came back and he was like, well, he threw a number. I think the number that we got for the roof was like 14.5. And he came back and he was like, well, we'll give you 12. And I was like, no, like, screw that. Like, we got a bid. It's 14.5. You were too lazy to get your own people out there. We extended the resolution date. And on top of that, if you go back in the market, you have to tell every single potential buyer that you need a new roof and you don't have electrical that's safe. So not only like did you not get anybody out there, but you don't want to go back to the market and have to deal with that. So I was like, so I said, let's go back and tell them this. But Walker actually like drafted up the contract and sent it to him and said, hey, like 14.5, we'll close the deal. And then they ended up signing it. So it's like, I think you still, like, you do lack negotiating power, but I don't think you completely lack it. I think you can still do it, because at the end of the day, they want to sell the house and you want to buy the house, and nobody wants to go back on the market. So if you're under contract, you do have, just being under contract gives you that negotiating power. So I don't think you should back down from somebody. I mean, like, at the worst case, you would have just said no, and I would have either walked and bought a different house, or I would have said, okay, whatever, I'm cool with the 12 grand. But I mean, if you don't ask somebody for something, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you said it, like, we've noticed, like, a lot of times we are going in at list or sometimes over list price on properties. And, that's, you always want something below list price and want a deal. Unfortunately, that's, hard to find in Denver, and you take what you can get. Beggars can't be too choosy right now. But when you do, like, go under contract, especially near their ask price, if it's, listed well, we've seen a lot more favorable inspection resolution negotiations there versus, hey, you go 10,000 below, it's really lowball them, and they're like, nope, take it or leave it. And it really changes the dynamic there. So you're right, getting under contract with realistic expectations is, the name of the game in the Denver market right now. And then it's also, as you said, you are not submitting an objection over something nitpicky and stupid. It's not like, oh, you know what, we're missing curtain rods and we're missing door stops and there's no egress window in the basement. It's like, no, this is all stuff you saw before, but roof, sewer, radon, you can't see that when you walk the property. And so that's, if you present the bids, present that. Plus, I don't know how much, Walker told you about the other agent. He was a very tough guy, to put politely. He was at some point threatening to talk to managing brokers and all that stuff. And Walker's like, hey guys, like, our managing brokers, with in Colorado, that's like you supervising a broker here at our company. And Walker's like, okay, this guy's starting all this, like, I don't see why, everything is fine, but hey guys, just double check me. Am I missing something here? Just like double and triple check me. Like, no, dude, you're good. That's just the way he is. He's trying to play hardball and be a tough guy.
Yeah. And that kind of pissed me off too when he did that to Walker.
Well,
because like Walker's my friend.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah. And so I was like, screw it. Send him 14.5, send it back to him. And if he doesn't sign it, I'll buy a different house. Whatever.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm a seller, and I'm starting to get under contract. Chris, you're trying to buy my house. I'm starting to get a bite of the cake. And then when they're starting to ask for certain things like a roof or something, I don't want it to go back on the market because I started getting a taste for it, and I start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm selling my house quickly. And would you agree with that? That like they don't want, I think Preston put it the best way, is a stale house that goes off the market. Or I guess stale is not the right word, but goes off the market and then back on the market, because then people see that and they instantly think that, oh, there's probably something wrong with that. Because I remember when I was looking at properties, I looked at something that was maybe a week and a half on market, and it was a week and a half, and something in my mind is like, oh, there's something wrong with that property. Or it went off then back on, oh, there's foundation, plumbing, something's wrong with it,
Well, you're right. So, I mean, some rough numbers. I'd say about 8 out of 10 sellers and their listing agents, that's their attitude. Like, you know what? Like, hey, this is going well. So, going well. Plus, if we cancel, we're gonna have to deal with the same issue with the buyer behind you, Ben, or the buyer behind you, Justin. And so let's just, resolve it here, since you're already here. And sometimes too, depending on the seller situation, hey, they might already be under contract in a new house with a move-out date that's ideal for their situation. And it comes down to the fact like, hey, yeah, okay, I'm gonna be like a couple $1,000s less than I expected, but everything else makes sense. You know what? This makes sense for me. Now the other 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, you just sometimes want to grab your stupid gun and shoot them with it because you're like, why are you being stupid about this? That's not what we say in a negotiation, but to be very frank, you're just like, come on, guys, like this is you're getting like we had I can think of 2 deals. Like one is a house hack in Southwest Denver, and they want to blow up the deal over like $1,000 over, and this was like a sewer line. It's just like, guys, this is stupid. Another example, go extreme, like even the bigger things. We had and are about to get back under contract a 12-unit or 13-unit apartment building in Nevada, around $2 million. So it's a hefty price tag. We're on the buy side. Our clients are in 1031 exchange, so they've got their deadlines. They were under contract a couple weeks ago, did their inspection, and they were off by like a couple $1,000. And the seller was like, "No, I don't want to come down on there." But the thing is, they were willing to close in January, which would save them like a prepayment penalty on their loan 5 times the amount. And it's like, where's the logic on here? So it can be very frustrating. Most of the time, most sellers and most listing agents are very, very reasonable and have common sense. But 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, you're like, oh man, I need my stupid gun here to kind of like shock people here. Like, come on guys, let's just take a step back and use some common sense and big picture.
Well, and my situation was a little bit different than Justin's in that the house that I ended up getting was like move-in ready. I mean, I thought about even painting the rooms, and then when it came down to it, I was like, no, I didn't want to do that. Like I thought about putting ceiling fans in the rooms. We're going into winter. That's not really something I need to spend my money on. And so the negotiation aspect on a house that's basically move-in ready is a lot more hard to get on the table, because there are going to be other buyers there that are willing to just walk in, move in. There's already radon mitigation system. The roof was not that old. The sewer was good. The foundation was, seemingly good. The basement was all drywalled out. It's all finished. So it's kind of hard to see. But one thing that you guys touched on that I wanted to go back to really quick, in a scenario where you're looking at houses that are like move-in ready, and in this Denver market where you can sometimes expect to pay $20,000 over asking just to be aggressive and get into a house that you want, something that you can use as a negotiation tool is putting a limit on your inspection resolution items. And that's what we did in my contract was, she wanted to fast close. They were waffling back and forth a little bit about some items. They wanted a little more time to make a decision on the contract, which they were just trying to get closer to the weekend. We put an offer in, I think on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I said, no, we're not waiting. We're not giving you more time for you to get more offers. The way we'll do it is we're going to limit my inspection resolution items to $2,000. So anything that comes in under $2,000, I'll handle it myself. The water heater, the furnace, the radon mitigation fan, actually the bearings were going out, so it was making noise. They just had it unplugged the whole time. I thought, I just replaced it yesterday, $145 from Home Depot, went and fixed it myself. But that's kind of another avenue of getting in and kind of saying like, hey, look, we're serious. We're not going to sit here and nitpick you. I used an FHA loan, so those FHA inspections supposedly are a bit more nitpicky than a conventional inspection. So, things like, well, the door doesn't close quite as easy as it should, and we just wanted to assure them, look, I'm not here to get nitpicky about little stuff, but if your sewer's bad, if the roof needs replaced or there's significant structural damage, that's a no-go for us. And all of those things are going to come in over $2,000. But, water heater, $1,000, furnace, $1,500, $2,000. Those were things that was just like, you know what, I want the property. That's my negotiation tool. And, it ended up working for us.
Yeah, and that's a strategy we like, because if sellers are not going to get nitpicky, that helps us differentiate ourselves from other people out there as well. All right, Ben, what's the next topic to go into?
Patrick, so you said you have your house hack is in Arvada, correct?
Yeah.
How did you come about, like when you're originally looking for your property, what layout, and how did you come to that you're looking for this type of layout for a house hack, these many rooms, this location, and what really fits your personal situation best? How did you kind of narrow down?
So that one piece of advice I would give to people is to drive around the Denver area, because I used to live in Wyoming, used to frequent the Denver area pretty frequently, but Aurora kind of gets a rap for being like lower income area. That's where a lot of people move when they first get to Denver. But so I kind of had that in the back of my mind, like, I don't know if I really want to move to Aurora, but, you know, drive around Aurora. There are some very nice locations over there, some really nice properties, some like really old, kind of like historic looking, you know, roads with really tall trees. I mean, it's just like, the ambiance is nice. So getting a feel for Littleton, Inglewood, Aurora, South Aurora, Arvada, Westminster, Boulder, Thornton, you know, North Glen, getting an idea, Lakewood, you know, what it is, what you're comfortable living in, and then really make up your mind. If you don't want to be an extra 25 minutes away from the mountain, just cut it out of your search. You know, you might have more opportunity to look at houses. There might be more on the market over there, less competition in Aurora. But if you want to be closer to the mountains, that's something you know, it's really dependent. It's subjective to whoever, you know, what your lifestyle is, what you want. But once you make those determinations, just stick with it and stop looking in those places. And so my thing was, I wanted at least a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And I wanted the layout such that 2 bedrooms shared 1 bathroom. So I didn't want 4 bedrooms, 1 master ensuite, and then 3 bedrooms to a bathroom, because it's doable, 3 people sharing a bathroom. But, you know, if ideally I could get it set up where 2 bedrooms shared a bathroom and then, you know, 2 other bedrooms shared a separate bathroom locationally in the house, that would be good for me. And this house came up. It was a 5-bed, 2-bath, 2 full bath. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs to 1 bathroom, 2 bedrooms downstairs to 1 bathroom. And I'm going to use one of the bedrooms upstairs as an office. So you know, that upstairs bedroom's still kind of a communal bathroom for, you know, making dinner. Hey, I got to, you know, use the John real quick or wash my hands. You know, so that's got to be understood. But for people going in and out, taking showers, brushing their teeth, that kind of stuff, I think for me, I thought it, you know, I've lived in different countries where I've kind of been on the other side of house hacking. I'm paying other people to live in their properties pretty frequently. And, you know, that was something that I personally liked was, okay, I don't want to be sharing a bathroom with 5 people, 4 people, you know, so that sort of layout. And so the location and the layout, when you get those 2 things, you know, you could be a little bit flexible on them, obviously. But when you really find out that's what you're looking for, just stick to it. And it eliminates a lot of unnecessary visits to properties that you're trying to talk yourself into, like, oh, well, this isn't really the layout that I wanted, but man, the market's getting tighter right now. It's just, you know, have an idea of what you want, have your dollar value that you're willing to spend, and just hunt. I think the way I put it was kind of keep your expectations low, but hunt aggressively, because, you know, as we discussed before the podcast, you know, I kind of got my heart broken on a property I missed out on by quote unquote a couple $1,000s in Lakewood. And I lost 3 nights of sleep over that. The night we put the offer in, and then the next
really?
2, because, you know, that sort of, you start, you know, when you get into real estate, it's you put your first offer on, and then it's like, you know, it might not get taken, but you start building that life in your head of, man, I'm going to live in this spot. There's this grocery store, there's this, and then it gets pulled out from under you. And it's kind of like, oh man, now I got to get back on the market. And, you know, and having that sort of set layout of the house and location, whether it's west of 25, north of 70, whatever it is, you're able to kind of jump right back into the market when, say, an offer doesn't come through for you. And you're honed in again. You're not spending ridiculous amounts of time on the weekends, you know, searching 5 houses, 6 houses, going to open houses. It kind of helps kind of rein everything in.
Yeah, dude, doing the open houses every weekend can get exhausting.
Yeah, and that's actually how I found this one. We Ashley and I had toured 5 houses. We had 5 scheduled appointments on a Saturday, which is a bit more than she recommends. You know, she says stick around 3 or 4. Yeah. Once you get over that, things start to get muddled together, and you lose track of details. So, you know, I know it's her job, but I felt bad. I was dragging her around on a Saturday. I said, hey, just appreciate it. You go home. I'm going to go up to Arvada. I'm going to check out this open house. I walked into the property and walked around and walked outside, big backyard, fire pit, hot tub, back, there's a big shed in the back. And I walked downstairs. I said, well, I might as well walk through the whole house. Walked downstairs, and then I just walked right. I didn't even really say anything to the listing agent. I just walked right back out because I was like, I cannot afford this place. You know, like there's no way that if I put an offer in that other people aren't going to be putting offers 10, 15, 20 over asking. And I'm not willing to go that high. And, you know, just so happened that 3 days later, Ashley and I were touring another property, and we got a push notification that this house dropped its price by 13 grand. It had only been on the market for 4 days. So we moved aggressively because we had, you know, the idea that they're probably looking to close quickly, and that's why they dropped the price so quickly. So, yeah.
I had a similar thought process when I think towards the end of my search, I got to the point where I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get like the layout and the characteristics in a house that I want for the price, because every house that I looked at that had the layout, you know, had everything I wanted, was in the area that I wanted, it would go for like $25,000 to $50,000 over asking. There was actually specifically one house in Littleton. It was like perfectly updated. It was beautiful. They had a hot tub and it was like a kid's playhouse, but it was more like for adults. It was ridiculous, but it was way down in Littleton. And I figured how like its proximity to Denver would lend itself to being a little bit cheaper. So Walker called the listing agent like the day that it was listed, and they said to be competitive, you had to go in at least 50,000 over asking. And like, I got really discouraged then, because I was like, this is just not going to happen. I'm actually going to save up a lot more money to get a house out here. But it took me a lot longer to kind of figure out that layout. I had to look at a lot of different houses and get an understanding of, okay, these are the specifications that I need on a house to buy it. And then after like having that layout and knowing that I need a garage because I have a bunch of stuff, I was like, okay, I could look at a house online and be like, yeah, that's not going to work. I also wasn't very specific on my location. Like, I think so my house is in Glendale. I knew I liked that area, but the prices weren't really in line with what I was trying to buy, but I ended up getting a house for a pretty solid deal. But I was also open to like kind of houses up from Lakewood all the way to Arvada, just because after a certain point in time, I was like, I don't want to limit myself, because I feel like I'm not getting to buy a house because the characteristics I want a house, I can't find that house in these areas. So I was like, you know what, I'll be open to going on the west side of 25, which actually, Chris, you kind of urged me towards. And I was like, because I didn't know because I worked with an agent before Walker, and I was like, I don't know if I can rent a house out if it's not close to Denver. And then talking with you and your team, it's like, you can rent a house out almost anywhere. So it really opens the possibilities.
Yeah, and to kind of touch on that really quick, the second tenant that I'm about to sign a lease with, once I get confirmation of his work transfer, you know, he had told me that his job that he's transferring to is in Littleton, and I was just really upfront. He was actually a good communicator. He was one of the good Facebook contacts, and you know, I said, hey man, this is the application process. Send me your email. But I'm just going to tell you right now, like, your job is on the exact opposite side of the city. And I used to live in Southern California, so sitting in traffic, driving 35 minutes to go 7 miles isn't really unheard of for me. And it's, you know, I'm not as used to that anymore, especially now that I work from home. But, you know, it's not a big deal for me, but for some people, and Denver's not as big as Los Angeles or the greater San Diego area. So, you know, I brought that attention to him, like, hey man, you might be able to find something actually closer in Littleton. And he basically came back and, you know, my girlfriend actually kind of reminded me that I had told her this early on in this process when I started, that I'd forgotten. And she reminded me, which is what he had said, was, hey man, 35 minutes is no biggie for me. I'm just really focused on finding the right place to live. And if that means your property, 35 minutes is nothing. And that was kind of what I had reiterated to my girlfriend when I first started looking, and what gets talked about on podcasts specifically about the Denver market is, you know, don't hamstring yourself by thinking that you're going to be too far away from things, because, you know, you're really not. And people just want to move here for the area and have access to the outdoors. So really any location in the Denver area, people are, you know, most likely ready to and willing to sign a lease for.
I think it's kind of hard to put yourself in like different life situations, right? Because everybody is different and they're all looking for different like things in a house. And you have to realize that not every one person is going to want to have the same needs. So like your house is going to fit somebody's needs.
Right.
Right. Chris, we have time for some more?
Yeah.
How are we looking on time?
One more.
One more?
Then we'll be bumping up against our time. So pick one.
All right. So if we have time for one more, I want to end off on this. If we have time to go around the room and talk about what's everyone's best and worst memory of their first, whether it's a house hack, investment, property, or whatever it may be. Because I know when I read this, it was there's a couple that came to my mind and made me start laughing. I don't know if Jeff, you want to start?
I'll start. So I'll start with, I was under the illusion. This on my first house hack, I did not use Mr. Chris Lopez or Preston Newberry.
Thank you for that disclaimer.
And I was under the impression, I must get a 2 to 4 unit, because that's what bigger pockets pushes really hard for your house hacking. And I found one, and you look on the west side of Denver, and that one, it's actually my worst cash flowing deal, if you could believe that. Most expensive to maintain, most expensive repairs, all because I was under the impression like, oh, the best cash flowing deals are multifamily. I didn't even consider anything else. I was so laser focused on just multifamily. It was a great experience. I probably learned more from that one and taught me, I would say on your first one, you learn the most from, because, you're a beginner. Everyone's beginner at some point for, real estate investing. And I learned about, dealing with contractors, dealing with plumbing issues. I didn't even know door jams could be messed up until I got this property. I didn't know you could use a pliers to turn a faucet until this property. I didn't know mold could so easily grow in Colorado, of all places, until this property. I didn't know cockroaches existed until this property.
What about bed bugs?
Not this one. That was actually a duplex I looked at before this one. Yeah. Luckily, no bed bugs. So I had all these problems, but it taught. I then had to do an eviction in my first week on top of that. So it was a learning experience. But I wouldn't, even though it was the most expensive, but it had the greatest learning experiences out of every single property. And that's what you get. Your first one, just know going in, you're not gonna hit that home run on your first one. You shouldn't even aim for a home run in the Denver market. It really should just get a base hit, like Chris always says, get a bunch of base hits.
Yeah.
And then 5 to 10 years time, you'll have a home run portfolio, and that will make all the difference. And that's where we're all here to achieve and help you guys achieve.
So I will give you the exact opposite end of the pendulum on that story. Because I bought my first place in like 2010, 2011, before I was a realtor, before I knew I was into investing. I always wanted to get into investing, but I was like, hey, things are so cheap. I'm just going to buy something because it's cheaper than a storage unit on the mortgage. And so my friend's dad had researched, he was a retired real estate attorney. He'd researched like every single condo complex on the west side of Reno, Nevada, to be near Lake Tahoe for skiing and avoid California taxes. That was his two main things. So he researched every single complex, went up there and bought a 2-2 condo for like $73,000. And then we heard about it, I was like, hey, we did numbers like that. It's so dirt cheap. We should go do the same thing. So we drove up there. We looked at 2 or 3 places, put an offer in 2 hours, run a contract like the next day in a foreclosure. And I realized like a week later, I was like, holy shit, I just spent less time researching a piece of real estate than I did the latest iPhone. It hit me like a week later. I was like, okay, but like my friend's dad, I didn't know him directly, but I trusted my friend and his father's judgment and their friend's judgment. And I was just like, hey, it all makes sense. I was like, things are so cheap. Like I kind of can't lose in the long run as long as I hold on to it. Was kind of my thought. But I was just like, cool, it makes sense. And I worried nothing about it. And then every property since I bought then, since I've done a lot more due diligence, but that was actually overall the best return I've ever had. Part of that was, I had that for 10 years as well. So it's not quite apples to apples, but I was the exact opposite. I was like, you know what, this all makes sense. Like, yeah, a couple details, whatever. And luckily it worked out, but I was just excited. I was like, I should probably actually think about this a little bit more than just go up there for a day, grab lunch, and get home.
More research on iPhone than your first property.
Yeah, that's what popped in my mind. But you know what? Now that property allows me to own a fourplex in Denver, which cash flows pretty darn good.
Did you have an iPhone back then too?
Or was it iPod?
Or was it iPod in 2009, 2010?
Oh, no, that was iPhone.
You had iPhones in 2000?
Oh, yeah.
Well, iPhone 2 or 1?
How old are you?
Disclaimer, I'm a Samsung guy.
iPhones came out in like 2006 or 2007.
Okay.
So this was like the third or fourth generation type. I remember that.
Okay.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go real quick. I remember, so on the lighter side of things, I know I can picture it like it was today when Preston sent Allison and I our message that we closed on this property, because we looked at it, and right when we walked in the door, within 30 seconds, we knew this is a great deal, and it'll create great cash flow, and it'll be a good starter for our rental portfolio to build wealth. We were at a hockey game, and she was at the bar getting drinks, and we both, the Preston group messaged us and said, like, congratulations, and we both looked up and looked at each other, and we were like, yeah, and it was, I can't put, I don't know, it was great. And we're looking forward to that same excitement for our next one. All right, on the other side of things is, for those who don't know, I did all the rehab myself. Everything it was tough. So we took out a bath and put in a walk-in shower, which required a lot of plumbing, which I thought I was the best plumber out there, but I guess not. Oh God. And so we were doing Airbnb. So our decision was to do a soft open with our friends that would stay there. They're coming on a Friday. This was a Wednesday. All finished up everything, turn on the water. The shower does not drain. It just starts. I'm like, oh, what did I do? And we had friends coming in. The first thing that came to my mind is like, I'm gonna have to rip out this Kirby walk-in shower thing I spent $600 on. All this tile we spent countless of hours on our summer doing and putting in, and I didn't know what to say, but luckily I took photos of every single thing I did throughout the process. And so I was able to go through that and notice that I put in a P-trap when there's already a P-trap in there. So it created a void and it wouldn't drain. Then I gave in to Allison, and because I wanted to do it myself. She's like, on the lighter side, she said, Ben, she said, Ben, you're not doing this. We're hiring out. I'm like, okay, I guess we're hired. So that's the one thing I hired out was the plumbing, and we still have a hole in our everything worked out. They fixed it. But we still have a hole, and we had to go up through our kitchen because it's on the second level. We had to go up through our kitchen to locate where that P-trap was and cut it out. And I still need to repaint that. I'll get to it any day.
But in the big picture, that's this minor speed bump in the big picture of things.
Oh yeah. I listened to a podcast the other day, and there's a quote that stuck with me. It says, wealth is not built through a single property. It's built through a portfolio. So don't look at the big picture. This is just a base hit. Multiple base hits have you win the game. And that's what this is, just a small thing. And when I look back at the time, it was the worst thing in the world. I thought it was boo-hoo me. It was the worst thing. It was terrible. But now I figured it out. That's the great thing about human beings is we're put in situations, we're not given the answers, but if we just start chipping away at little attainable goals, we can figure it out. The end. Justin, do you have anything?
Let's see, on this first deal, I think the biggest thing I learned was having a good team behind you. People with experience who you can kind of bounce ideas off, and, like people that you trust, right? Like when I had questions about things, I would go to Walker would go to Chris and Preston, and they would all, do a conference call with me. It would make me feel comfortable about the decision I was making. Because I feel like with the first deal, like, you're not going to know that much. I mean, you can only learn so much from going to bigger pockets and doing webinars and all that. You just have to get the deal. You have to get out there. You have to do it. You have to learn through trial and error, right? So having people who have done that trial and error, it's good to have those people behind you. So that way you can make the best decision that you can make with the information that you have.
Well said. Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, still kind of in the same spot as Justin. First property, so luckily right now don't have any bad stories, kind of like Austin did when he came in and there was an issue with his wiring under his sink or whatever. I am now, though, now that the house is empty, I walked through it yesterday with the seller who was maintaining occupancy 12 days after closing. When we walked it with the inspector, the basement's totally finished, like totally finished. So there is some issue in that an inspector can only do so much to determine structural damage or structural issues because all the concrete walls in the basement are covered up. There could be some shoddy drywall work, which is what there appeared to be overhead in the laundry room. It was right on a seam, a tape joint, so it started pulling apart. It's like whatever, but the current tenant, when the inspection was done, had all of their stuff in the house still. So closets underneath the stairs in the basement and certain rooms, it just had stuff in it. So you couldn't really give like a full detailed, perspective or opinion rather of the structural, he thought it was good. Now that everything's out, I'm like, I just peeked around in some crevices. I'm seeing more cracks in the drywall, and I'm kind of hoping, oh man, I hope I didn't get myself into trouble here. But, kind of like what Justin said is just, reaching out. I had a friend tell me, the one in San Antonio who's doing the flips and stuff. He's like, man, get on Bigger Pockets and start networking. And really, I like to keep to myself, but I can talk. It's not an issue. So what I did was I got on Bigger Pockets and I just went to the Denver metro area and started looking for people in the area. I reached out to Ashley, who ended up becoming the agent, and how I met with Chris and all you guys basically. And luckily, it turned out to be a great experience. I would recommend the team to anyone. But that all started by me reaching out on Bigger Pockets, and it wasn't a home run the first time. I reached out to a couple of different people who didn't have my best interest or the investor focused interest at heart. And you can kind of tell that pretty quickly if you're attuned to talking and dealing with people on a regular basis, and kind of getting a read on people, because I talked to a few real estate agents who it was just straight down to business. They didn't care about anything else. It was, you need to go do this and that, and then come back and talk to me where, I got a better feel for, Ashley talked to me for like 30 minutes before we even started talking real estate, and, kind of getting that comfortability with your team, and then just kind of trusting the process. And, like we talked about earlier, just having all of your specifics in front of you and following those. What, kind of sticks with me throughout this process and, likewise moving forward is having a property to cash flow is better than having no property to cash flow. And, especially living in an apartment that I pay with utilities, over $1,700 with, and internet and stuff. It's like, well, if I can afford a property here and I only get one person to rent out a room, I've still reduced my rent. I'm still actually cash flowing, maybe not, in the green cash flowing on the property, but like I've reduced my expenses, and, I'm actually saving more money than I was before. And so, getting into a property is probably more important than sitting around and overthinking everything too much. So, yeah.
And that's a great point. And when you run the numbers, it's always like, it's a different way to look at it, but it's a good way to look at it. And it's usually a pleasant surprise. Like, hey, I'm paying all this rent, man. Even if I have one roommate, yeah, I'm still paying, mortgage or, but still choosing my rent while I'm owning an appreciating asset. Like, It just
Exactly.
makes so much sense. And like, that's where it's like, especially if you realize bigger pockets, oh, you got to cash for this much or do a 1% rule. Of course, we'd all like to, but it's just very hard to do. And that's where you can, kind of like lose out in the big picture by getting focused on a couple like very short-term arbitrary metrics.
Yeah.
So guys, this was fantastic. Ben, great job organizing this, man.
Thank you.
This was great. And it's going to
Right
be, I'm looking forward to one day when we can all be in the studio together and hang out. To be a lot more fun, a lot better that way. But everyone, Patrick, Justin, thank you guys. Ben, Jeff, thank you. And so we'll be doing these house hack masterminds. I think every month is a plan, and everyone's contact details will be in the show notes. Reach out to me, Jeff, Ben, Patrick, Justin. This is just a great way to network. Like, that is the name of the game right now with this, especially since we're so limited during COVID. But a big reason we want to start doing this was to do some virtual networking. And this is one of the best ways to do it right now, since we're often, at home and isolated behind our computers and iPhones. So please reach out to any of us. Love to network, and we'll just kind of keep building this community here and helping people reach their goals. So everyone, thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the invite.
Thanks, guys.
Good talking to you.